you get hand mic. Yeah. Hi, good evening everyone, and good evening everyone watching us live at home. I will watch my language. I'm so thrilled to welcome you to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation conversation with, is there anyone who doesn't love this actress? I mean, seriously. This is someone who used to steal movies with just one line, be it Bad Santa or Coach Carter or SWAT. She had one line in SWAT that I laughed for 20 minutes. She obviously proved she could do even more with bigger roles, and when 2011's The Help, she won our hearts along with a Golden Globe Award, an Academy Award, and 2 SAG Awards, including her work for the ensemble. Since then, she's shown her range in films like Snowpiercer and Fruitvale Station, and this year, once again, she is a dual SAG Award nominee for her work in Hidden Figures. It is such a pleasure to welcome Octavia Spencer. Thank you so much for being here, and among your many honors, which I literally don't have time to list, I love this. You were just named Hasty Pudding's Woman of the Year.
I cannot believe that, and I love pudding.
That's a huge honor. I know Meryl Streep and Jodie Foster, all these amazing people, do they call you and tell you? How does it work?
I found out right before I went on Kimmel last week.
Oh, really?
And it was out of nowhere. It's okay, is this a joke? But it's one of those things that it's so humbling that it's hard to fathom, and then you start thinking, oh my God, this is actually happening. So
it's huge.
It's very good.
And don't they roast you?
Yeah, I hope by roasting they mean that they're going to have a delicious beef broth, and it's going to be just falling off of the bone or something. I don't know. Yeah. I've never been roasted, and I'm terrified. So.
Well, we're going to start tonight. Do you remember?
I do.
Again, you're having another amazing year, and it's so wonderful to see. And again, I don't know anyone who doesn't love Hidden Figures.
Oh, thank you.
Such a wonderful movie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My people. Actors. I feel you.
Literally everyone from my 12-year-old nephew to my 98-year-old grandmother loves this movie.
That makes me smile. It really does.
Yeah, it's nice to have something to agree on family holidays. But I want to go back and start at the beginning, because when did you first develop an interest in acting? You weren't someone who did school plays or...
I actually had an interest in acting as a kid. But the world is your oyster, and you can dream, whatever you want to dream. And so for a second there, I also wanted to be Jessica Savage on NBC Nightly News, because she got to sign off every day, I'm Jessica Savage on NBC Nightly News. So I did. I used to, and I kind of don't watch the news as much, but that's my thing. And but I'd always wanted to be, then I realized I always wanted to just, pretend to be Jessica Savage. So it was really about being an actor. And my mom had always told us that we could do whatever we wanted to do or dared to dream in the world. And so I just kind of thought that performing, because I can't sing, so I really couldn't be that type of a performer, maybe acting would be the thing, but it's always been a part of my DNA, always. And then the reason, I did plays in high school.
Oh, you did?
I did. I mean, the one play that the drama club did every year, I did.
Was it the same play every year?
Well, no. we moved around a little bit, but I didn't major in theater in college because, and this is always a big because, and you always learn when you don't do something. There's a reason why they have a curriculum. And I remember my first day, and they told us that we had to take practicum. And I'm thinking, what's practicum? And we were basically scrubbing the stage down and painting and getting ready for the next play. And I'm like, I will never in my life be painting a stage. I'm an actor. But now I wish that I had done it and learned all of those other departments, because I would know how to sew. And I would really understand lighting. But we just get so caught up in, no, I need to do it for my art. And, and now it's you really should have learned those other those other things,
But I think you said that you were kind of practical as growing up, and just didn't think it was realistic.
My mom, she just had this, she was very practical, and so I'm still practical to this day. And for me, I just didn't realize that they made movies outside of Hollywood. I mean, because until a movie called The Long Walk Home, filmed in Alabama, it seemed like a dream that was too far away. But it was still in my heart, and I still, you know, would look at that whenever they showed that Hollywood sign anywhere. It's like, ugh. And so the practical side of me never saw an avenue. And then events happened, and I lost my mom, and I just kept wanting this for myself. And it was like, hey, guess what? They're filming a movie in your town with Whoopi Goldberg and Sissy Spacek. And it was right after I graduated from high school. So that was my first toe in the water, and it had me from that point on.
What did you do? You were an intern?
I was an intern. I worked in the funny thing is, in persistence. I called them every day and, you know, asked them if I could work in the, oh,
this is gonna be good.
I really do this. I disguise my voice every day. I would call and ask for a different department, and I would disguise my voice.
I want to hear some of these voices. So it was
I didn't even remember. Hello, and I'm just crazy. I disguised my voice, and then I somehow found out where they were, the production office, and I just kept going every day. And they're like, "You're not gonna let this go, are you?" And I'm like, "Nope." And I went back every day, and they gave me a free job, and I was so happy to work for free.
That movie starred Whoopi Goldberg and Sissy Spacek, who you went on to work with in The Help. Did she remember you? Did you remind her?
I totally reminded her. Totally reminded her. But Whoopi and I have kept in touch. She was one of those people who took me under her wing, and it was funny because, you know, when you get bitten by that bug, and I just remember just stars in my eyes. I worked, you know, they didn't want me to work 80 hours a week, but I was happy to be there, just happy to be working for free. But they basically gave me $100 a week, which was, I was so excited just to be getting $100 a week. And then I found out PAs made $500 a week. And the last couple of weeks, I was like, you know, I need that $500 a week. And I felt like a millionaire, I did. But Sissy, Whoopi had always, as a matter of fact, when I graduated from college, I think she was filming Clara's Heart or something in some crazy faraway country. And she had her brother call and let me know that she was thinking of me. And
wow.
Yeah, and so she's been there like my little guardian angel, and there's something that I actually have that we're gonna do together.
You're kidding? That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And then I think, were you working in the casting departments of movies in the area?
That's exactly what I did. I worked behind the scenes, and boy, you think you know everything when you work in the audition, you know, in the casting. People in the South would come in and they would have props and all these things, and so of course that's what I thought, that you could bring props to auditions. And I would coach my friends when I moved to LA, because I work in casting. And I actually had a friend that I told that he should take props to his audition. And he was in a big audition for Warner Brothers. And he took out a phone. You remember the phones with the little antennas? And he took it out of he had his little briefcase, and he took out his phone and he let out that antenna, and the casting director said, "Let me stop you. You do not bring props to auditions." So I'm so glad he made that mistake, because I never made it when I started auditioning.
And I feel like you may have told me once that people did ask you to audition for things over the years, but you kind of like waved them off.
It's true.
Acting was calling you. It was trying
to call me. But you know, again, that's that practical. And I was also told, for all of my people in this room, that Hollywood wasn't for me. It was not for girls who looked like me. It was for the beautiful people. All I have to say on that is, you know, it's not easy. All of you guys know there's nothing easy about what we do. And I am grateful that God, the universe, whatever you call that force, I call it God, continues to put opportunities in your way, because the directors would always say, you know, for one person who would come in and read for one line, and you, would you like bacon with that? You know, and he would always, I want you to read for this line. I'm like, no. And Joel Schumacher, the only director out of all of the directors that I worked with prior, was the only one who didn't want me to read that.
Really?
It's like, wait a minute. I need to turn you down, and you haven't asked me, so what do I do? So then I had to ask him, and it's great because by asking him, I was not passive, and it made me not want to be turned down. It made me want to do it, and I actually worked as a PA on A Time to Kill, and our very last day of shooting, was the day that I did my line, and I got to get like this great trailer that somebody had vacated. And they put my name on the door. I still have pictures. My name on the door. It was great. It was the best dreamer's dream come true that day. It was pretty amazing.
So you did audition for him?
I did. I wanted to be the woman who caused the riot between the KKK and the townspeople in A Time to Kill. There's one lady, and all she did was like, you know, get in somebody's face. She didn't really even have a line. It was like an utterance. And Joel Schumacher said, your face is too sweet. You can be Sandy's nurse. So, hello, it just set me on a course of being people's nurses for years, but I'm not upset about that. I'm not upset about it.
So your first time actually in front of the camera, I mean, in addition to the nice perks of the trailer, but I mean, were you terrified?
I hadn't thought about it, but you know what? I probably would have been if we had shot earlier, but it was the last day of shooting and everybody was acting like, you know, it was my Meryl Streep moment because it was my crew, and Sandy and Matthew were there because my scenes were with them. But it was like, you got it, all right, yeah. And it was this whole like, yeah, I'm one of you. I get to be in front of the camera today, and it was so remarkable. It was really amazing.
And then were you gone from that point on? You knew this is what you had to do?
No.
Okay.
I grew up without a dime, so I realized just how touch and go it is being an artist. Like, you may be working today, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have a job tomorrow or the next month or the next month. So you have to have something in between. And so I thought that I would be able to do both, that I would be able to work behind the scenes and work in front of the scenes, which you kind of can't do because they only see you as if you're working behind the scenes getting coffee, they're only going to see you as a person getting coffee. So you have to do your day job away from your dream job. And I learned that. So I did keep it separated, but it did spark something in me. It did. After working with Sandy, I moved out here like January 1st. I just had my 20-year anniversary.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I then got a day job, and I kept, you know, there's just so much that you don't know when you are working behind the scenes and trying to get an agent and getting headshots. I can't even tell you some pictures that I had blown up. I didn't realize you had to have professional headshots. I mean, I was just like a bad Polaroid. I blew them up. But it's just all of those things. I'm not even kidding, I hope. You guys don't even understand. But I still have that desire, but there's so much that you learn just by, you know, being around it every day, and you just get groomed, and you that you gain a better understanding of things when you get to work in a casting office. If I would suggest everybody in this room, there is nothing better than demystifying the whole casting director actor relationship. It's the best if you just intern a few hours a week, because then you learn how to own your auditions. Because I hate auditioning. I was always terrified. I was always terrified before an audition, always.
But you must have been good at it. I mean, you were working a lot.
I worked a lot, but you just have to, you guys know, you have to psych yourself up. And then sometimes there's weird politics in the waiting room. You know, people that you normally, it's just so weird. It's so weird. But the thing is, what I've learned is there were a troupe of us that I always saw, like some of the same women, and you finally get really comfortable seeing the same women. You're like, oh, well, if I don't get it, I know she's gonna get it. Oh, if I don't get it, well, you know, okay, great. And it eases that whole, you know, what I call the waiting room. You know, just, you know, it's crazy. But I say when you get to the point where you can actually, if you flub a line and you see what actors do when they flub a line in an audition, it just totally makes everything like, oh, I messed that up. Okay, can we take it back? But before, you know, you would do that and you would just be terrified. I skipped a line, you know. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I said all that to say I learned a lot. Sorry.
And I believe you and Sandra Bullock continued to be friends, and
yes,
she cast you in, I think, the only film she's ever directed.
Yes,
a short film called Making Sandwiches.
Making Sandwiches.
Yes.
Sandy was trying her hand at directing, and she knew that I was moving to town, and I asked her if I could cast her extras. We shot in Oxnard, and basically all the people the person whose shop we had, and the little sandwich shop or cafe that we were using, and people closely connected to the film, I just basically took Polaroids of everybody in their family. And like this, you know, he can be here and this person can be here, so she let me do that. And then she had one of her actors drop out of the short, and she said, well, you can play the part. And I'm like, well, great. It's really weird how the jobs kept coming to me. So while I was shooting that, the DP of that was about to do a Disney movie, and called The Sixth Man. And before you say anything, no, you never saw me in that movie, even though I shot it. I got cut completely out, but it was with Marlon Wayans and Kadeem Hardison.
Yeah.
And I worked for 3 weeks on that show, and I think that was my second acting job, and that's when I had to pay, when I became a member of SAG.
Even though you got cut out?
Even though I got cut out. If they leave your name in the credits, you still get residuals.
Nice.
So be real nice to people on the set, because those residuals were great.
I remember talking to Sandra Bullock about her casting you in that movie, and I wrote this down because I loved it. She said it was actually just supposed to be a couple lines, but as everyone will soon find out, you don't just give Octavia Spencer a couple lines. The minute she opens her mouth, she makes a meal out of every word, and once we saw what she could do, we kept on giving her more to say.
Yes.
Is that how you remember it?
That's exactly how I remember it. But Sandy is also one of the most generous people on the planet. I mean, she also knew what I was in store for, and I didn't know what the process was. As a matter of fact, see, this is so much I didn't know. A lot of people, when they were on A Time to Kill, they give you the actors list of you get the breakdown, and everybody seemed to be from this agency, Ka. And so I thought, well, when I go to LA, I'm gonna go to Ka. They seem to have good actors there. CAA. Like everybody's at Ka. Totally. But I didn't even know, you know, about the whole needing to have an agent. And she took a scene from her short and cut it for me. And it's Sandra Bullock and Matthew McConaughey, and it's the only tape I have. And the casting, it was my entree into agencies, and I have these two people on my tape, and it was, you know, I didn't realize how huge that was. I do now. Yeah. I do now.
And did you end up at Ka?
I did not end up at Ka. I ended up where I'm going to be for a while, at WME, and so that's where I am now. But it was just kind of funny because there's so much. Oh man, it's just a lesson. It's a lot of lessons learned, but that's how green I was.
And I seem to recall that you didn't know you'd been cut out of The Sixth Man. Like, didn't you go to?
I did not know I had been cut out of The Sixth Man. And they were so sweet. They sent this tape. It was when everybody had the VHSs. And they sent the tape home with me, and my friend Tate Taylor decided to invite all of our friends over, and he cooked a meal.
God.
And it was so uncomfortable. Like, this is my first scene. And nothing. And I only had like 4 scenes. And then the next time, like, we're sitting there eating, and it's like, okay, wait, my second scene was supposed to be coming up. Okay, my third one's coming up. And then I'm like, we can turn it off. I don't think I'm in this. I don't think I'm in it anymore. But yeah, no, but it was pretty funny now. But back then it was just like, but that's when I realized, I'm like, I probably need acting class. Because everything was like really important in every word. And so that's when I started going to acting class like 4 or 5 days a week.
Really? Who did you start off with?
I studied with a woman named Anita Jesse. She also taught Bryan Cranston. And
I've heard of him.
Yes. Yeah, you might know him. He might be, yeah. And she had quite a few known actors in her class. And Tate and I were in class. We did on camera. Man, all the technique, you know. I just remember having my first time dealing with props. Again, me and the props. I had like a sandwich in a scene, and it was like, you know, she's like, no, you got to hold it exactly the same place, you know, and you don't even realize, like, the shot's here, and you're like, just every other, she's like, nope, you got to hold it the same place. So it's all of that stuff that you don't, all of that technical stuff. And I still don't know how to hit a mark because of all of this. So I make the camera guys, I call it, give me Braille for my foot. So when you know, you could see on my first few jobs, which I won't tell you what they are, I always walk in and I look down. Did I hit my mark? And then I start my line.
Something I think you told me, which now seems like kismet, is when you were doing The Help, you wanted Taraji P. Henson's acting coach.
I did.
You had seen her in Benjamin Button.
I did.
Did you know Taraji then?
I did not know Taraji then, but I loved her in Benjamin Buttons. And I also loved her in Hustle and Flow, but Benjamin Buttons came before Hustle and Flow, didn't it? I see my brain, everything is up. But yeah, he and I became really good friends, Jamal. And he got me ready for The Help, and he also got me and Taraji and Jenelle ready for Hidden Figures. He was going to be my date to SAG, and then he called me on Saturday and told me he wasn't going to be able to make it. But yeah, he's one of my dearest friends. But he really, as you can see, is a technician, and how he helps you mine the scenes for gold, basically.
So are you looking for a +1? Because we do a lot of auctions here. We could auction off a date.
I got a deep roster that,
I'm sure.
You know, agents. Lots of agents.
So after starting to study acting, I mean, did you notice a difference? Did you start booking roles immediately?
A lot more frequently, definitely more frequently. But, you know, as you all know, it just gets there are lulls, you know. But I was happy that if I had a job a month, I was happy. And it got to the point where I was able to support myself, which, you know, it's hard to do.
Well, I mean, it seems like you were everywhere, because I saw you in, I guess, your first and only play.
That was my first and only play.
Trials and Tribulations of a Trailer Trash Housewife.
Yes. Yeah, that was my first and only play. We ran, oh my God, what, like 9 months?
It was a long
Friday,
run.
Saturday, and Sunday.
I think it was 2003.
Yeah.
But because you made such an impact in that show that I had to interview you, first of all. I believe it says on your Wikipedia page I was the first person to ever interview you.
Oh.
But also, then I started like seeing you everywhere, like Win a Date with Tad Hamilton and The Soloist and Coach Carter, and like, it was always so exciting because you'd come in and sometimes you just have one line. I was talking about SWAT earlier. Like, you had one line in that movie. The best line ever in Bad Santa.
Yes, that was a good one.
And I've heard people say that sometimes it's harder to go in and do one line than to be the star of something.
It is hard to go in because you're walking into a set that's already established, and you have the one thing to do, so you can't mess it up. And, well, I mean, you shouldn't mess it up. Not that you can't. But, you know, it's you guys know, if you have meat on the bone, you figure, you know, you can do so much with it, but with so little, you have to make an impression in that little bit of time. But I have to say thank you, because I think had it not been for the interview that you did, I listen, I always give credit where credit is due. And it was such a resource for me with Backstage, and I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we were all such fans. We all felt weirdly invested. Like you'd pop up on Dollhouse, and we'd be like, Octavia's on Dollhouse, and I could probably quote your lines from Coach Carter.
Oh.
Yeah, just like the one line, like he's in the car.
Yeah,
it was always so delightful. But I'm curious, I mean, you were obviously probably looking for meteor roles at the same time.
Absolutely, and the other thing that I had an agent that believed in me, and who also taught me how to step away from the one-line scenes. And it's like, wait a minute, they want to pay me $1,200 for one day to come in and say one line? I can't. I got to take that $1,200. And he's like, nope. This if you only do the one scene parts, that's all they're going to see you as. So you have to say no. And then pretty soon they started, having me come in for guest spots, and that or what do you call it? Not guest spots, under fives. Oh. And then after the under fives, it was the guest stars, and then sometimes the guest stars would be woman number one. Or not, it would be like an under five, and they really wanted me, and so my agent would say, well, you have to give that character a name. So you'll see a Bernice or, Nancy. And it's like, really, it's woman number one.
Yeah.
But he just, he really taught me how to, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say no, because you don't know what's coming around the bend, but it was, you have to do it. Yeah. You have to do it, guys. So you know.
We actually had a question from Jeff McBath, I think. Oh, over there, hi. Wants to know what kept you going during the low points in your career.
The low points in my career, actually writing and working on my friends. And my friend Melissa McCarthy, yes. She kept me working a lot. We used to shoot stuff all the time. And Tate Taylor, I worked, as craft service and, starring opposite him on stuff that he did. And I tell you, you have to surround yourself with people who are in the boat just like you, okay? And you guys have the same journey, because you're all not going to be down all at the same time. Somebody is going to be up and going up, and they remember the people that helped get them there. And Tate, I tell you, there are so many women that they could have gone with for the help before me, but we were good friends, and I had worked with him countless times on everything, and he fought for me to get that role, and thank God he did. But for all of you in this room, write your own stuff. Continue to write your own stuff. And if you have to film it on your iPhone, film it on your iPhone. Because now there's so many avenues to get your stuff out there, to get yourself out there. And it doesn't mean that it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but next month is a possibility. But if you don't do anything at all, it's never going to happen. So I just had a group of people that I worked with all the time, and we were all broke at the same time, some of us, and some of us had, we all borrowed the same $500 from each other so many times, but we always paid it back because we needed our money, and but it was so good to have somebody else to lean on and to go through that. But don't just surround yourself with actors. Surround yourself with producers who are in the same boat, trying to get their things going, and directors who are in the same boat, and writers. Just get your little troop of people, because once it happens for one of you, if they're gracious people, they will bring you along.
Didn't you move out here with Tate? Did you guys drive out here together? Is that true?
He did it. I was anxious to get here. He did it very leisurely, like he went skiing and all of this stuff. And I was just like foot to the pedal to the metal. And I got here like January 1st and he got here January 6th. I also wanted to beat him. You know, I wanted to beat him here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, we've come through the ranks together though.
I mean, the story behind The Help is almost as amazing, and it's funny, not to make this about me, but I remember reading Catherine Stockett's book, and I remember I was in Hawaii, and I was like, God, Octavia needs to play this Minnie character. Like, I gotta see if she's heard about this book. And I was gonna email you, but I kept reading, and it said, Minnie's sister is named Octavia in the book, and I was like, well, that's weird, and then I keep reading, and then it says, you're in the acknowledgments.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up online, and you did the audiobook, so I'm like, wait a second here. There's, you know, I am not like a genius casting director. There's a connection here. You kind of inspired the character.
Well, here's another thing. So, Catherine Stockett and Tate Taylor were in grade school together. And Tate had just done a movie called Chicken Party. And he was doing the sound mixing in New Orleans. And the other thing about our friends is we were all just starving artists, but one of our friends, Stephen Rogers, was really, really rich because he was a writer who kept selling stuff. So he would always pay for our retreats where we would always go away to write. Everybody was writing something, but he basically would take us, it was a, you know, an artist vacation. Mm-hmm. We'd all pile in, you know, 2 rooms, but it was kind of great. But for that retreat, while they were doing the sound mixing for Chicken Party, Catherine Stockett, because it was happening in New Orleans, Catherine Stockett came, and I remember her. She was like, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm an actress. And I asked her what she did, and she said she was a writer. And I'm like, okay. And she said, well, I'm writing a novel, which, you know, I was like, okay. And she said, I'd love for you to read it one day. I'm like, okay, I'll be happy to read your novel. And 5-6 years later, we were filming a movie called Pretty Ugly People in Montana. It was freezing, and we were looking out over Glacier Park, and she said, we're in a van, it's just beautiful, God's country. And she said, you know, I finished my book. And I said, you did? And she said, yeah, and you know, it's about to get published, and I'd love for you to read it. And I'm like, really? I want to read your book. Because you think, you know, how many scripts have you read? Sure. And they're terrible. And, you know, I'm that person who's going to be honest. I'm not going to tell you that it's terrible. I'm going to tell you that it needs work. And some people don't want to hear that. You want to be told, I love it. Mm-hmm. So I just remember I was supposed to go to a friend's bridal shower that week. And it was raining. It was in LA. And I sat down. I'm like, I'm just going to read the first chapter so I can tell this woman that I read her book. And I sat down to read the first chapter, and it was great. Yeah. I was a little, you know, offended by the dialect. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this people talking. I don't know. And I kept reading, and I kept reading, and I'm like, okay, she's not making a statement about the race of the people. Mm-hmm. She's making a statement about the socioeconomic and educational level. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with this. And when I got to Minnie, because if you haven't read The Help, each character has their own chapters in the book, and you follow 3 voices. And when I read Minnie, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I read Minnie's description, and I had to know, like, Minnie just kind of looks like me. She looks like me. Yeah. Because, and I found out basically when she knew who Aibileen was and how Aibileen would be, but she really didn't have an idea of how she wanted Minnie to be until she met me. You know, we have the same physicality, and Minnie definitely speaks her mind. And when she met me, I was hot and hungry because we were in New Orleans, and I was on a diet. I was on a diet, and let me tell you, when you're hangry, you want to get there. And Tate thought it was a good idea to do a walking, you know, tour in New Orleans in August. Yeah. And a person's on a diet, and they had just gotten through eating biscuits for breakfast, you know, and I'm like very angry and hot. Yeah. So that's all I'm gonna say. Minnie is based on me when I'm angry and hot and hungry.
I mean, what were you flattered? Were you shocked?
I think I was a little bit, because there's so few similarities. I mean, we're both chubby, you know, mouthy women. Yeah. But the hangry side of her is what I find funny, is that she just had a sharp edge, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that was definitely. Because I just remember, are we there yet? And he was like, you know, just literally, we're just walking around and I'm dying and hungry. So for that, I mean, I think you have to be flattered that someone thought whatever, you know, your essence or what have you would make a great character. So.
I can't believe she kept it a secret from you all this time and was just like casually read my book.
Yeah, well, but you know, you kind of also, you don't want to force it on someone, because, but I actually read that book cover to cover. I missed my friend's bridal shower, or not bridal shower. What is it? The bachelorette party. Not bridal shower. Bachelorette party, because it was also raining and people can't drive in LA in the rain. So I'm like, you know, and there was no Uber back then. I mean, I would have had to have cabbed it or ridden with somebody, and I don't like being trapped. So I opted to stay home, and I got her a great gift. So.
It all works out then.
It did.
But even, you know, the character's kind of based on you, and you're good friends with the writer-director, but it wasn't necessarily a slam dunk. There were a lot of people who wanted this role.
There were a lot of people who could have had it. I mean, Monique had just won the Oscar. Queen Latifah had just been nominated for an Oscar. There were countless of other people who had much more name value than me. Nancy and Bernice. You know, if you look down my resume, it's nurse number 1, nurse number 2, Bernice, Nancy, you know. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that the studio, that's a big risk, but I'm also grateful that I did do, when Catherine, because I'd read it so much, she asked me to, when she was promoting the book, to go with her and, you know, do the voices of, she would do readings and I would do Minnie or Aibileen, and she would be Skeeter whenever she read her chapters and everything. And so then she asked me, she said, you know, you should do the book on tape. And I did the book on tape. I did all of Minnie's chapters. How many of you ever done a book on tape? That is some serious hard work right there. And so I did the book on tape, and Stacey Snider watched my audition and then listened to the book on tape and said, well, if she could do this, then she can do the part. Wow. And so that's how I got it.
How were they able to finally tell you that you had the part? I mean, did they call you or?
No, God, did I block it out? It felt like it took forever, you know, and I'm sure everybody and their mama was still are you sure, you know, trying to like get them to not go that way, but you know, and for Jessica Chastain's part too, they had every bombshell in Hollywood wanting to play Celia, and I did chemistry reads. My deal hadn't even been set yet, and I was reading with other actors. And Jessica came in, and I read opposite her. I met her in an audition, and we became really close. I don't know, there was just something that happened across that space. And I remember I remember how she found out, because I called her to tell her that she was gonna get the part, and it was really weird. I mean, should I be saying this on here?
It's okay, we're not live.
But yeah, no, I remember. Well, hell, we're talking, right? May as well be honest, right? But I think I did. I blocked it out.
Really?
But the thing is, I knew tape told me this is going to be your part, and I just had to trust that. Yeah. And I couldn't bug him because we lived together too.
Oh, really?
He knew he couldn't get away from me, honey. He knew. But you just kind of know that you can't, you know, ask every day. And I knew that what he was up against, and I knew that he and Brunson lived next door. Tate owned a duplex, and Brunson lived next door, and Tate and I lived in the house next door. So I saw them every day. And every day, all I have to do is give him a look.
Yeah. And once you went down and got on set, you're working with, I mean, everyone in this movie was already like pretty, sort of established, but it really put them on a new level. People like Viola Davis and Emma Stone and Jessica Chastain, who had done movies, but we hadn't seen them yet.
Right, right.
She was completely new to audiences. I mean, I have to imagine, well, I know, like, you guys got very close, very fast.
Yeah, we all did. There was something about, it's wonderful, and guys, don't take this the wrong way when I say sisterhood, because guys get, like, oh, the women and the sisterhood, but there is something about all of us being there, because you just hear all of these ideas, or you read these things about all these women that get together, there's going to be, jealousy and all of this, and we didn't see any of that. It was just the most supportive group of women, and it was really remarkable, and we're all still very much in each other's lives. So it's special.
It's just been amazing to watch your guys' careers, and like, I was saying earlier this year, there could be like 5 actresses from The Help nominated for Oscars this year.
I know, honey. Ooh, let us pray, Jesus. Listen. It was great being at the Golden Globes this year.
Yeah.
It'll be great being at the SAGs, because it'll be a reunion. Yeah. It was a Help reunion at the Globes. It'll be a Help reunion at SAG on Sunday.
And then the film wasn't just a huge success with audiences; it was a big critical success. I mean, did I don't want to say overnight, because that is such a misnomer, but did it feel like your whole life shifted after that?
Well, my life is very much the same, but my career definitely. It took a minute well, here's the difference. The phone was ringing a lot, but everybody and their mama was calling me to play somebody's maid. And it's like, and it wasn't even a good maid, like many, with meat. It was just, more tea, and I'm like, how are you going to offer me a part that's not even better than the part that I just played? And it was before any nominations. I mean, the movie was barely in the can, and I can't, if you see a movie that was filmed, 2000, we filmed The Help in 2010. If it was filmed between 2010 and now, and that had a maid, you know who they called first. And I had to say no, because it's not that it was a maid, because I played a nurse 19,000 times. It's that there was nothing to the character that I hadn't played. So it's like just walking in to serve somebody. Unless you guys are going to give me a few $1 million to walk in and serve a house, I'm not going to do it. You just, as actors, we want to be challenged, and you want to do something that's going to make you grow as an actor, and for me, I like to grow as a person. I like to learn from the people that I play.
What did you learn from Minnie?
I honestly learned, people always say, the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. But if you're talking about a person who doesn't own a glass, they don't care one way or the damn other if it's full. You want that glass first. You want to be able to make the decisions in your own life that affect your life. And unless you have that power to do that, you're not going to be optimistic and you're not going to be pessimistic. You're just looking for some better way to do things. And for me, I really, I understood, that because I don't see myself as a pessimist or an optimist. I just see myself as a realist, and Minnie was about as real as it could get. Yeah. And so I realized then that I had to stop looking this way, when you're like, oh, such and such got that audition for such and such. Oh, wow, or this one over here just booked, 20 leads and something, and he's got a book deal. And so if you're looking at all these places instead of straight down the barrel, you're going to miss something. And for me, it was just about not complaining and understanding that my journey was my journey and the next actor's journey is the next actor's. Because I got to tell you this, there were a few people, the day that Taraji Henson and Viola were both nominated. Viola was for Doubt and Taraji was for Benjamin Buttons. I had a few actor friends call me and say, can you believe it? And it was like this negative thing, and I'm like, honey, what this means is that there's a big pie, and you will soon be able to stick your finger in that pie and have a piece. But right now, it's, you know, it's just not your turn. Your turn is coming. And that's what I believe. And hell yes, I was right. I had a big old slice of pie, and I'm happy about my slice of
pie. Speaking of pie,
Yes.
The Help was, no. The Help was on TV the other day, and have you ever seen the TV edit?
I have not seen the TV
Oh,
edit.
do you know what your big famous line is?
What?
Eat my spit.
Oh, okay, then I spit in it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't eat my spit. That's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
it's like, I mean,
Doesn't have the same impact.
No, but I actually thought about it, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty impressive that they came up with that.
Yeah. Eat my spit. Did it sound like me saying it? I can't remember doing it. Eat my spit.
It did.
All right.
I
I block a lot of things out, guys. I just block it out.
So what was the first project you signed on to after the success of The Help?
After the success of The Help, I did a little movie called Smashed, because everybody again was offering me, you know, not very good maid parts, and and it was a tiny little movie, and I met the director, James Ponsoldt.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and it was about people in AA, and you know, my character was basically in the middle of transference. She was sober, but she was eating everything, you know, sweet. So I thought, well, that's cool, and who hasn't met anyone affected by some form of addiction? So we did that little movie, and it went to Sundance, and then I got to go to my first Toronto Film Festival with that.
You're kidding. Oh, wow. No, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is phenomenal in that.
She is.
And Aaron
phenomenal.
Paul, too.
Aaron Paul, yeah, it was a great cast.
Yeah, it's a really good cast.
And then after that, I knew that I was going to be. I met with director June Bong Ho.
Thank you for pronouncing it, because I wasn't sure how to.
Director Bong, we call him, and it was so funny. Yes, I'm wearing a wig, just in case you guys didn't know. But here's why I'm saying this, because in my meeting with him, I met with him. How many of you have seen not Hidden Figures, Snowpiercer? Okay, well, it's post-apocalyptic, and my character lived in the back of a train, and we didn't have, you know, running water and all that stuff, so she was a little... she was just gross. And I just remember meeting Director Bong, and he just kept smiling and looking at me. And I thought, this does not feel like it's going well. Yeah. And so while we're talking, I said, do you mind if I do something? And he said no. So I took my wig off in the middle of our meeting, and it just worked tricks, ladies. Wow. So I just took it off, and I laid it down on his desk. And then we talked, and he was like, oh, because, you know, he just couldn't picture me, like, as the character who was, you gotta now go see
it's such
Tanya.
a great movie.
And I, you know, I'm like, I need to do this, because I don't feel like he's connecting with me right now.
Yeah.
It was, so I took that wig off, and I got that job.
It's interesting to me that you were even auditioning at that point. I would think the offers would be coming to you.
No, I mean, here's the thing. That was, and then I also auditioned for Lamb of God, which turned into Paradise, Diablo Cody's directorial debut. Right. But this was before, I mean, any awards conversations or anything like that. The first job I got after winning the Oscar, I decided that the next thing of import for me was Fruitvale Station. And thank you. that one, it was another tiny movie, but it had a huge message. And I'm not a mom, but I'm an aunt. And I thought, I look at all of these young men and I see my nephews. Yeah. So I wanted to play that for obvious reasons. And so, but Fruitvale Station, here's another side story. I keep giving you guys all these side stories.
Please, yes.
So my rich friend Steven, which he won't mind me saying, he's rich and his name is Steven. Steven bailed us out a lot, but Steven also invested in every one of our little projects that we ever had. So I called him one day and I said, look, some of our funding fell out of this little movie that I'm doing called Fruitvale Station, and we need people to buy $25,000 increments, units. And he said, well, am I going to get a produced by credit? I'm like, no, you won't get a produced by credit, because you'll get a special thanks and but they have a lot of producers. And this was the one time he didn't invest. And then we won Sundance.
Wow.
So when your friends call, I only call you with good stuff.
Did you know the story of Oscar Grant before you got that script?
I actually remember, and I'm going to be honest with you guys because that's the only way I know how to be. Barack Obama had just been elected. And I remember the video going around. And I just said, you know what, I'm in a good mood right now. America has just surprised me. I'm not going to watch this because I don't want to be depressed. And to me, that was the wrong choice to make. It was the right one for me emotionally then. But I think that if we continue to not deal with things because they don't feel good right now, the problem, persists. Yeah. And so, but that's me being really honest. I could have known about it then, but I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see someone's son killed that way.
And was this the first time you'd played a real person?
It was the very first time that I had played a real person.
Did you meet Wanda?
I did. It's funny because I was actually on my way to Prague when I talked to Ryan Coogler about playing Wanda. And the only concern that I had was her age, because they did a birthday party in the movie. And I just said to Ryan, real matter-of-factly, listen, the good Lord only gave me one gray hair. And that's all you get. You get my one gray hair. And I was like, I'm not wearing a gray wig. I'm not, and I just went down this long list of not doing gray. And he laughed. He's like, I promise you're not going to have to worry about, wearing gray hair. Because, as a character actor, they only want to see you one way. And if I give them a gray wig, they're going to start having me as everybody's grandmother.
Right, right.
So, there's some lines that have to be drawn. And all I thought about was my vanity. But he put me in touch with, he sent me videos and everything. So while I was shooting Snowpiercer, I was preparing for Fruitvale Station, which I was shooting right after that. And he sent me videos, and I actually talked to her from Prague. And then when I got back from Prague, I think there was like a 4 or 5 day lapse, and then I went up and I met with her right before I started shooting.
Wow. I'm also curious because Ryan Coogler, who I just think is a phenomenal director. I know I'm not alone in that, but this was his directorial debut.
It was he had done shorts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he did a wonderful short called Locks.
Locks.
That's I'm going to cry if I start to talk about that one. Yeah. It's actually on YouTube. You should look it up. So how did you know he could pull this off?
I have this thing, and this is also another, I'm telling you guys stuff you already know, but for me, the Scorseses of the world aren't calling me. It's the young, up-and-coming writer-directors, and to me, that's more exciting for me, because they at least will give you a shot at a great character instead of the maid. So, you know what I'm talking. So, I like writer-directors because I'm not like, if it's a first-time director and I can't see how they are going to shoot the movie, I'm going to be a little leery of that. But if they're writer-directors and this is their first time directing, and I see that you can write I know that you'll be able to direct it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be really honest. I'm not the first person to go, I don't know about this first-time director if they haven't directed anything that I could see. But I knew that Ryan could execute it because it was an amazing script. I mean, when you're reading the script and you see teardrops on the page, or you laugh out loud at something on the page, you know that they will be able to execute it. And boy, was I wrong.
It's such a fantastic movie, and if anyone hasn't seen it, it opens with the real footage of Oscar Grant being shot. And I think it's such a hallmark of a good movie that we know how it's going to end, but you still are. I remember the second time I watched it, I was like, well, maybe it'll turn out differently this time.
I know. You're just so engaged.
Yeah.
And he is so amazing as a director, and I have to say that was one of the most diverse groups of people, because all of the film school kids, this is the other thing, they all went to film school together, and they were all working behind the scenes. He had, raised money and was able to get them paying gigs, but they were all there. So stick with your people.
And what was it like when Wanda saw the movie?
It's one of those things where you know that it will never be old for her, but it was a way to show other mothers. She's in a club that nobody wants to be in, I won NBR Best Supporting Actress, and it had for Fruitvale Station on it, and I gave that award to her. Really? I'm like, you lost your son, and this is in no way, it's just something for you to know that the rest of the world feels your pain. And she's really one of the most gracious women, and warm, but you know that she suffered a tremendous loss. So it was painful for her. It was painful to be in the room when we watched it at Sundance, and all of his family was there, and I'm like, I know that I'm going to sob, and we all did. It was audible, the tears, when we watched it at Sundance.
And I guess we should talk about another true story, which is Hidden Figures.
Yes.
How did this story find its way to you, and what drew you to the project? It's one of these stories that I'm embarrassed I didn't know. Like it should be taught in schools.
It should be taught in schools. It's funny because how many of you guys have seen Hidden Figures? Thank you. The thing about that movie is, if you now that you know the story, that John Glenn almost didn't go, and the only reason he went is because Katherine Johnson checked the numbers and made sure that the machine was right. To know that he almost didn't go, and that somehow when we hear the telling of his story, that she's not inextricable for some reason, they should be inextricably linked.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that. I remember, because I was working back to back to back, and I had decided that I was going to take a break and I was going to go to New York to watch some plays. I was just going to stay for a week and just go watch as much theater as possible. And my agent said, well, if you're there, you need to meet Donna Gelati. And I'm a huge fan of Donna Gelati. She always picks great movies with great characters. And he said, well, she's doing this movie about these 3 mathematicians, black mathematicians, who helped get our first men into space. And I'm thinking, well, okay, it's historical fiction. Okay, it's like The Help, because I had never heard the story. And this was 2 years ago. And when I met with her, right before I met with her, they sent me a script, I read it, and I then decided to Google, and I realized Katherine Johnson's real. Oh my God, these other women are real. They're real. But there's very little, at that time, there was very little about any of them except for Katherine on the internet. And I just, for 50 years, we haven't known that black and white women made these contributions to the space program and to STEM programs. And we're still feeling those the impact of that today. The fact that we don't know the story, I'm like, look, I want to be a part of this for so many reasons, but every child needs to see this movie because it will definitely change how you feel about yourself. No matter, I we could talk for hours about this, but I remember having filmed the movie and then watching it as an audience member. And I was just so moved by these women and what I knew that they had to endure. And I felt so proud at that moment. I was proud when Taraji, I found out that she was going to do it, because I knew that they would have to find their Catherine first. But I told her in the meeting, I'm like, I want to be a part of this, no matter what. I want to be a part of it. So when you guys get it going, you know, I don't know who I want to play, but I want to be a part of it. And they remembered, and when they put it together, they called me.
I was going to ask, actually, if it was always the role of Dorothy.
Well, here's the thing. Mary, for me, felt too much like Minnie, and I had just done that. But you know, Mary's also 25, so as much as I love myself, I doubt that they were going to let me play the 25-year-old.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I pretty much knew that it was possibly going to be Dorothy, but I left that open for them, because you also don't want to go, I'm playing Catherine.
Right.
You know, right. For me, it's like, you know, do what you need to do to get the movie made. And then, you know, we'll see. We'll go from there.
And once it was Dorothy, I mean, what was it like? You said there wasn't much out there, but did you have any research to draw on to form this character? Thank
God for Margot Lee Shetterly. She wrote this beautiful, comprehensive document called Hidden Figures about all of these women and so many other people. And Ted Melfi, because I panicked, it was only 3 weeks.
Oh, by the time they actually...
By the time I was knowing that I was actually going to be doing it, it was 3 weeks. Wow. And so that is no time to do research. And for me, you know, I'm just dyslexic, and I have to memorize the script from cover to cover, so that on the day, you know, that I'm free to play. And Ted gave me, like, what did he give me? I already have eyes on the prize. If any of you are ever doing anything, period, that's one thing that you want to keep in your arsenal for anything, period. From beginning to end, watch that. Don't watch it any other time, because you're going to be mad and fired up a lot. But for me, I had that, and then there was all of the research from Margot Lee Shetterly's book, and we had NASA archives as well, because that's the other footnote. Whenever you Googled anything, it would say, see NASA archives. It's like, I wish I could. Right, and then we were given that information from Ted. Are you someone who's good at math? I mean, did you instantly understand everything, or at least able to wrap your brain around it? I was actually pretty good at math, but this is rocket science, guys. I mean, literally rocket science. It is not something that most people are going to understand, and I'm like, oh my God. I was kind of glad that I wasn't playing Catherine, because you do have to actually understand it. For me, I have to understand it. I have to, you know, get it in my body, so that it doesn't look like, you know, if you're playing a hairdresser, you can't look like it's the first time you're touching hair. You know, it has to be in your body. And I was really glad that we didn't have to actually see Dorothy doing any of that, but we did have to see her fixing cars and fixing computers. Right. So I had an IBM consultant, and I worked with our transportation department, because I'm also claustrophobic. So laying underneath that car, I was like, oh God, it was terrible, terrible. That's how we were introduced to you in the movie, is your legs. My legs underneath the car. I was like, I know who that is. You mentioned memorizing lines before. We have a question from Melinda York. Right in the front. Hi. Loves you, big fan, enjoys your work. Wants to know if you have tips for memorization. I have an app. Well, first of all, for me, if you read the script enough times, some of the lines stay with you anyway. But for long passages and things, I have an app. Is it script? Rehearsal. Oh yeah. And it's great, because you record everybody else's lines, and but you do it rote. I do it rote, so that you don't get into a rhythm of how to say the line. But I just record everybody else's lines, and then fill mine in.
Can you improvise then when you get to set, since if you have it all, you know, the lines that it's quote unquote supposed to be locked down?
I like improvisation, but I love writers. So if a person has written it, I don't mind opening it up, but I really kind of like to stick to what's on the page because it's already been vetted. But I'm happy to improv. I just don't want to sugar, you know. You're just kind of stuck. But yeah, I do. We, as a matter of fact, when we were rehearsing, we basically never used any of the lines.
Really?
Yeah, we read through. We sat down and we would read through the script, but so that it would be fresh, we just improv'd.
Now, you're working with Taraji P. Henson, who I obviously knew you already admired, and Janelle Monáe, who it's almost unfair that she did her first 2 movies last year, and they're both phenomenal.
Very good.
Was being on set as fun as I think it may have been, or?
We had a ball. I mean, Taraji is a special kind of light, and she's a true professional. Just, you know, knows her lines. She's always on time, knows her lines, but she also knows how to have fun on the set. She knows how to take care of her crew. And, you know, you give me an opening, I'm gonna ride with you. And so she would come in to the makeup trailer, but we would joke mostly in the makeup trailer because set really isn't the place to, you know, have lots of loud laughs, but you would think you were if you were walking past the makeup trailer at 5 o'clock in the morning, you would think you were probably at some house party because there was lots of loud music and lots of laughter. So on our set, you would not have been able to come and work on your lines in the makeup trailer. Not at all, not at all.
And what was it like working with someone as new to it as Janelle was?
Janelle she's very quiet and reserved, and so we had to pull her out of her shell. But she, you know, we also see her as our we called her, you know, baby sis, and Taraji calls her Peanut. And you saw her performance. She's just a force of nature. So there was it was level, you know, playing field when we're on the set. But when you're in the makeup trailer, everything is wide open. And she, you know, she's so quiet, but we would see her, you know, just giggling, you know, as she's getting her hair done and everything. But she's a really, really wonderful young woman as well.
We have a question from, forgive me, I think it's Heaven Nezcree? Heaven Nezcree, did I get that right? Okay. Her parents are both graduates of Wilberforce University.
Oh, Dorothy's.
Yes. The town and the campus has such a rich history, and as you explored the life of Dorothy Vaughan, did you discover any interesting facts or trivia about Wilberforce? And have you had a chance to visit? Thank you for a perfect movie.
I have not had a chance to visit Wilberforce, but I mean, her story in and of itself is just remarkable. And all of those HBCUs are just phenomenal and had such an impact on who Dorothy was, her time at Wilberforce. But no, I have not had a chance to go. There are a lot of places I should go.
You'd be like a hero, though. They'd probably like throw you a parade.
Oh, well, then I should go.
And I know Dorothy's no longer with us, but but Catherine is.
Catherine is.
Has she seen the film?
I actually saw it with her. She had already seen it before, and we did a premiere at NASA for the NASA families. And let me tell you, that was one of the most amazing is such now it's just so really overused and can't really be used to describe the experience, but to know that one of the heroes or the heroines of this film is actually able to receive all of the love, all of the acknowledgement that she's getting right now, and in such a positive way it's beyond amazing. And her daughters are everybody just really, really happy with the portrayal.
Yeah, I have to imagine. We have a question from Siani Walker. Did I pronounce that right? Siani. That sounds much better. I'm sorry. Amid the diversity issues in Hollywood, you've had such an amazing career thus far. What would be your advice to a young, aspiring African-American female filmmaker?
Don't take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer for yourself. Don't take no for an answer for your film. And by that, I mean, people are going to tell you no. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of no's. But don't have that be the reason that you don't do it. If it means, you know, saving money, putting it on your credit card, which I would say, you know, not to do that. I mean, try to do GoFundMe, bake sales, whatever you need to do to raise money to get that film made. And you only get one time to ask your friends to work for free. But my friends ask me to work for free all the time, so maybe that's not true. But you should use your resources and make sure that the work is ready to do. But just do it. Do it, and then, you know, get it out there in festivals. There's so many ways for your material to be seen and to disseminated and distributed that, you know, just don't take no. Don't take no as an answer. You understand? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if Viola says no, she means no. It's like, Viola, I'm not supposed to take no as an answer. I want you in my movie. It means Viola's not the right one. You keep going until you get the yes from the right actress, and you will. Because, you know, they write a lot of great parts for men, but there are so few wonderful parts for women. So if you write this compelling piece of work, it will get to the right person if you are the person to keep. It's your baby, so you want to make sure that baby has a dry bottom and, you know, pampered or whatever. You want to make sure your baby is taken care of. So nobody's going to take care of your baby as well as you. That's what I would say.
Do you ever think about what if you had taken no for an answer during the long walk home and had never worked on a set?
Well, if they had told me no, I would never, I mean, they did tell me no. Hello, they told me no every day. And I would call, I forgot that I would call and disguise my voice.
Would you call saying you were Octavia Spencer in a different voice? Or
no,
as
no, I never gave my name. I would always be
Oh.
someone else. I would always ask, you know, and I would probably say the wrong department because you don't know what kind of departments they have. The people who cook, you know, like, you know, that sort. But I did, and then I went down to and I just went every day. And they were like, okay, this one is, you're not going to go away. So, nope, I'm not going to go away. So you may as well use me. And it worked.
We have a question from Queen Al-Jahi. Al-Jaye. Do you find that drawing on past life experiences help you choose and or develop the necessary emotions to powerfully, what is that fun?
What?
Not past lives, but like past life experiences. No, I thought the same thing. But I mean, drawing on past life experiences to like help you, you know, find a character.
That's the only way for me to do it. You know, is to ground it in a reality, and sometimes you have to, you know, do the whole substitution and make it real for you or make it real to you. So absolutely, absolutely.
Is that something that, like, you mentioned that you still worked with somebody on Hidden Figures as a coach. Is that something that they teach, or? No,
I just think, you know, they always tell writers to write what you know. And I get that. And sometimes in order to make the character real and to find that humanity, you have to find the likenesses within the similarities from your life to help, you know, get over that hurdle of, I'm not breaking through, there's something, because if you only do surface, if you only go for the surface, the character is going to be very surface. It's not going to ring true. But to me, to ground it in reality is imperative.
And I want to talk about some of your upcoming projects. Speaking of past lives, I'm fascinated by The Shack.
Yes.
I haven't read the book, but I saw the trailer. Are you sort of playing God in this?
I am playing God.
Wow.
that was very interesting. I mean, when I met with the producer, we talked for 3 hours. It was only supposed to be a 30-minute meeting. We talked for 3 hours. And when I found out I was actually getting to play God, there was this, oh, hold on a minute. That's God. And you don't have any, you talk about drawing on past life experience. It's like, this is God. How do and I started having serious panic attacks. Like, I don't really know how I'm gonna play this. And because then you're thinking, you know, God, I mean, does that mean I'm gonna have to be nice and, you know, just all of the generalities that you know, like God can't be angry or, you know, all of the crazy. So when I stopped thinking in terms of that, and I had to actually ground it in what I knew, and what I knew was that the reason why I was, you know, the vision of God that this young man saw was because she was the only person who had shown him kindness. And so I then had to see him as, I said, okay, so if God is the father, or i.e. mother, me, then he is my son. So I have to treat him as my son. And then it was like this breakthrough. But I just literally when I, you know, you get excited, I got the part, and you're like, oh my God, I got the part. I'm gonna have to play it. I don't really know what I'm doing as God. You know, it's really, when you really think about how, you know, omnipotent, all of that stuff, it really messes with you. So I had to, once I made him human, you know, I was able to do it.
Did you ask Morgan Freeman for advice?
He's
done it. No, really?
I was having so many panic attacks that I called my agent and I was like, I think I really need to talk to Morgan Freeman about.
I love that.
I'm not even kidding.
He's done it twice.
I know. I was going to do it, but then he was God in a different way. He was, you know, in a comedy, not, you know, dealing with the problems of the world. So I thought, you're gonna have to figure it out. You know, this is about your own walk with God. So. But then I found my way. But I was definitely, I was going to put him on speed dial.
I haven't read the book, and just the trailer like makes me worry that I'm going to need a lot of tissues.
There are a lot of really interesting things that happened on that set.
Really?
Yes, I want to say it's divine. But I just remember, you know, and it was all with animals. There was a shot where the man playing Jesus actually feels like Jesus because he just has this beautiful light and he's so wonderful and you love him immediately. He and Sam were doing a scene and they were walking like on the banks of this lake, and I'm sitting up there on the porch because I like to go to set and I like to sit around and watch and just get really, really into the space. And in one of the takes, a flock of geese just fly in and land and just start walking behind Jesus and Sam Worthington. And I'm like, is this... And I hope they use that take. So if they use that take, guys, that was not, they would like to tell you they wrangled those birds, but they did not. And then there's a moment when they set these butterflies. Well, I wonder if I should be telling you.
I think it's in the trailer, actually. Okay. It rings a bell.
Okay, they set these butterflies loose, and one lands in the scene on Sam Worthington's nose. And I was shocked, but as God, I wouldn't have been shocked. So I had to like act like I did that, you know. It just landed right on his nose, and I was like, yeah, I did that. But it was just like things like that, like this eagle it was a very beautiful, maybe it was just that I was so open to everything that I was noticing, even the animals, but I also notice animals in my life, especially if they're birds. But that flock of geese walking up behind Jesus and Sam Worthington was just like...
I'm excited too because you're reuniting with your Snowpiercer co-star, Chris Evans, in Gifted.
Yes.
And you're working with Guillermo del Toro in The Shape of Water.
Yes, I love Chris and Guillermo. I just actually had an ADR session on today, and I talked to Guillermo on the phone. He's one of those people. I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. I'm a huge horror fan.
Yeah.
And this is a return to his, I won't say roots because it's not a horror movie in that genre, but you know what I mean by the beauty of, what's the movie with the little girl and
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth, all of that mysticism. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
You're gonna just be blown away by Shape of Water.
Well, I cannot wait to see anything you do next. I want to
you.
congratulate you again on a fantastic year.
Thank
A
you.
wonderful movie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being a great audience.
Thank you.